This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, gang? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a beautiful winter Wednesday here in the Peg. And the vibes stay high for the Winnipeg Jets as they make it 3 wins in a row coming out of that 11-game losing streak with a 5-4 win on home ice last night against the New York Islanders. We'll chop it up with Ken Wiebe in his weekly visit on WST. We'll also talk Jets and much more from around the National Hockey League with John Shannon, who will join us as well. And then a little later on, and I had the chance to meet up with a whole bunch of old media friends at the launch to the St. Boniface Hospital Mega Million Choices Lottery last week at the one of the homes that are a part of the lottery out in Sage Creek. And, of course, I think I mentioned this on the show, Bob Irving is his spokesperson for the lottery and the hospital, having so much work done there over the years for his arrhythmia. Bob was so kind to say, I'd love to come on the program. So Bob's going to come on later on, get his thoughts on the Jets, the Bombers off season, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what is up for grabs and the cause that you're supporting when you get tickets for the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. But yeah, great game last night. I mean, real fun night in the building. I mean, this was a game where the Jets were up 3-0 in a blink of an eye. It was tied once again, and the Jets didn't wilt. 2 goals. I know Connor did a funny tweet. Wait a second. A goal for the Jets at the end of the second period when they needed it as opposed to the other way around? I mean, it seems like their fortunes have churned a little bit coming out of that game on Friday night. They hang on, missed a couple empty nets, got a little tighter than you'd like it to be when Matthew Schaefer scored to make it 5-4. But the bottom line, it is 3 in a row for the Winnipeg Jets. They were practicing today. We've got some news on a call-up and some injury news, which we'll get to in just a minute for the Winnipeg Jets. Off to Minnesota tomorrow to take on the Wild. Wild won't be in a great mood after losing to the New Jersey Devils at home on, was it Monday night? And then, of course, the Leafs are in town on Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada. That will be a big one. And Leafs got thumped last night by Utah. They'd been playing very well, 8-0-2. They just beat the Colorado Avalanche. Second end of back-to-backs. They got whooped by Utah. So, yeah, lots of Jets talk coming up today. We will hit the Bombers. But we got to get to the latest news on the Winnipeg Jets right out of the gate. Before we do that, huge thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Our partners over at CoolBet. Of course, the Winnipeg Jets. Don't forget our next WST game. Could be our WST group that turned the season around on Friday. Is going to be the last day before the Olympic break. February 4th, Montreal Canadiens. You can pick your tickets up at winnipegjets.com/WST. Also want to thank our friends at Princess Auto. Of course, Chud's Power Sports. Clean Line of the latest lines coming out of yesterday and into Minnesota for our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Princess Auto, Uptown Alley, Canadian Club, Rollies Transfer, and St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And it's Wednesday. Gonna have to bang out our NHL power poll for Chud's Power Sports as well. Welcome to everybody that's live with us on YouTube and chat. What's going on? Shout out to you podcast listeners. And welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's cracking?
Hey, in a good mood. Last week during this losing streak, we're like, oh, the Jets, they're last place, number 1 pick. Now all of a sudden, 3-game heater, They're getting some depth scoring. That second line looking pretty good. Jonathan Toews scoring the last 3 games. Start looking at the standings a bit differently now. Looking at, okay, could the Jets squeak into a wild card here? And this is a pretty important stretch. I think they're going to have to go on some crazy heater, basically the opposite of an 11-game.
Yeah, they got to make up for the damage that was done over the course of the past month.
If there's 11 games left in the, before the break, they're probably going to need to win like 9 at least of them if they really want to make a dent. There's a lot of teams ahead. I'm sure some are going to be winning 5 and 6. So if you want to make ground, you need to go on a big heater, and maybe it happens. It's nice to see them get some wins. Nice to see them win another 1-goal game. Nice to see them give up a lead. Well, not that part wasn't nice, but how they responded.
Really nice to see that.
Nice to see the response after giving up the lead. It wasn't, sulking. So definitely some positives for 3-game win streak. A lot more fun. A fun night in the building. The last couple, Friday with the WST group. A lot of fun. Sunday, exciting game, back and forth on a nice Sunday afternoon. And yesterday, military appreciation. And another great night at Canada Life Centre. Should be even better on Saturday with the Maple Leafs. You know it's fun when there's all those Leaf fans, right, Huss?
Yeah, well, that's one way to put it, I guess. It's fun if the Jets win. It's torture if they don't. So we'll look forward to that one. First, though, a big game in Minnesota tomorrow night because, as we mentioned, 3 wins is great. You get a little bit ahead of Vancouver, but there's still another 6-7 teams that you have to jump and a long, long ways to go. And I mean, if we're talking about meaningful games in the playoffs in April, it is going to be because this team was able to put a consistent period of wins together and avoid what had been killing them so far, and it's the regulation losses. Dusty and I were going through the amount of OT losses in the league, as well as the lack of regulation wins by some teams that have done very well by the loser point. You go down this list, like the San Jose Sharks and Los Angeles Kings only have 12 regulation wins. The Kings even, 16 regulation and overtime wins. But when you have 10 loser points, that is a massive, massive difference. And, going through that stretch with all those 1-goal losses, I know there's a couple OT losses in there, but it was that rising number in the regulation loss number that was really killing the Winnipeg Jets. And listen, it's still a long, long road. But as we do the show today, the San Jose Sharks are in the second wild card at 49 points. They played 45 games. So even games with the Jets. Jets are 8 points back. And the Jets are 9 points back of Utah. Utah has played 2 more games than the Winnipeg Jets. But, of course, in between them are the Kings, the Predators, who beat Edmonton last night, the Ducks, who beat Dallas last night, Chicago, St. Louis, Calgary, and then the Winnipeg Jets. So, I mean, it's day by day right now. And this goes back to, obviously we've had a ton of conversations as to the direction the organization should take going forward for the rest of the season. There was no way that there was going to be a white flag thrown up at the midway point of the season, as dark as it was. But again, whether this is a chance for some players to get going and maybe up some trade value, we'll find that out. Bottom line is they needed to win some games. It's been a heck of a lot more fun this week at the building, and the fans have really been responding to it. I kind of felt like the fans, especially for the Friday game, Remo, like when the losing streak was still going on, it was sort of like the fans were at peace with where the season had been and gone, and just wanted to see the team go out, play well, and win a game. And that sort of carried over to the last few, and certainly last night. A game that a lot of things happened against the Islanders, frankly, that were going the exact opposite way during that streak. You mentioned the bounce back after the Islanders scored the 3 quick ones to erase that lead. Getting a little bit of secondary scoring as well. Listen, they look a lot freer right now, very focused. But again, there is a long, long ways to go before we're realistically talking about anything to do with the Stanley Cup playoffs. A bit of a milestone last night for Mark Scheifele, who seemingly got his 500th assist not once but twice. Kind of funny when they were making the announcement, they cut to Scheifele on the bench and he was doing that. No, that wasn't me. I didn't touch it. It was changed. But he ended up getting another assist a little later on, and that allowed Jay Richardson to have a kind of fun with the announcement. And now officially, Mark Scheifele is that was when he did not have it. Then they did a little later on. We'll hear from Mark afterwards. And Remo, Jonathan Toews continues his strong play. That line had another real good game, and JT scores for the third straight game in 3 consecutive wins.
Yeah, depth scoring or just scoring in general over this last 3 games on the 3-game win streak, averaging 4 goals a game. That's 20 goals total. 4 goals per game in the last 5 games, 20 goals total. And again, 5 different goal scorers. And we talked about it on Friday, how they got a goal from every line. Well, the 4th line didn't get their goal yesterday, but you did have Lowry scoring, Toews scoring, and the top line as well. We got some from the D, Morrissey. But how about Mark Scheifele? 500 assists. That's 180th all-time in the NHL, really climbing up those ranks. That's tied with Corey Perry among active players and 3 behind Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who Mark Savard's got 499 just past him. Randy Carlyle past him as well. So he's really moving up all-time assist leaders. Mark Scheifele shows you what a remarkable career he's having, just signed the long-term deal. I do wonder, where he's going to end up in terms of all-time assists. So nice moment for him. Kind of funny that he's on the bench going no, I didn't get it. What a nice guy, Mark Scheifele, telling the referee, no, that's not my assist, and them announcing it because they gave it to him. What are they supposed to do? Ignore the score sheet?
Yeah, I mean, it's the official scorer saying, here's the goal. But anyways, it was a fun night last night. Speaking of the scoreboard, for people that were at the game last night, had kind of a massive outage on the South End Jumbotron last night. Even, over the course of the years, you'd seen maybe a square pop out. This was a lot bigger, and it was something that, could only be rectified after the game. So, a little bit of an inconvenience for folks on that side, which included my seats. But I have to give the Jets a tip of the cap. These sort of things happen. I don't think anyone was about to walk out of the game because part of the Jumbotron wasn't working in one end of the building. Second intermission, checked my phone, and I got a notification that they ended up crediting all the scanned ticket holders in that end of the building $10 a ticket to go grab a hot dog or a beer or something for the third period. So I thought that was a nice gesture. Probably not necessary, but certainly appreciated by everyone that was in the game on that side watching. And, of course, it was the military night as well. They did the big picture with the team and the members of the military yesterday. So all in all, lots of smiles leaving the building last night. Now, Remis, we'll get to Scott Arniel and a little bit more from last night in a minute. But let's get to today because it wasn't really a full practice. Scheifele, Morrissey, Pionk, Toews, Stanley were not out there. Good news that Morgan Barron was there in a full contact jersey. Positive sign for him. But the big news is on the blue line. Scott Arniel has added, and of course we knew Neil Pionk was playing through something. He had a rough night last night. Quite clear that he's not 100%. He is now week to week, along with Hayden Fleury and Colin Miller, who is on IR. So the call-up that I think a lot of fans was hoping to see has happened. Elias Salmonson coming back to the Winnipeg Jets. I thought that he'd be playing significant games probably after the Olympic break, but the sooner the better for this young man to get some more NHL experience and hopefully keep this ball rolling for the Jets in a positive direction.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the lineup is going to be against Minnesota. But yeah, that's a tough break where you have, Miller comes in, plays well, gets injured. Fleury's out. Nice to see that he's, seemingly okay after what could have been a horrible injury last week. And now Pionk, week to week. Scott Arniel was asked if it was a new injury or one that he's been managing after missing the Kings game last Friday. Arniel saying it's been going on, and then he fell last night and kind of re-aggravated. So Pionk playing through something, struggled a bit, although he did have the shot on the Lowry winner, shades of a shot that he had in Game 7 that Lowry tipped in as well. But Pionk,
yes,
they reminded me of that. Pionk going to be out, so we'll see what Elias has to bring. I don't know if he's going to play, who's he going to be paired with. It's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, so Pionk on the shelf, presumably won't play tomorrow. They'll get Elias Salmonson in, and tomorrow on the program, coming out of the morning skate, we should have an idea about who is playing with who. I wouldn't mind seeing a Big Stan Elias pairing. Have a feeling that, Elias, I imagine they stay with DeMello and Morrissey. I would have to say that, I don't know, maybe, if you put Salmonson, I think, can play top 4 minutes. Maybe he pairs up with Dylan Sandberg, and then they continue rolling out Shen with Big Stan. Oh, by the way, Remis, did you see my tweet of that guy's jersey last night at the game?
Which one was that?
The Four Nations jersey of Team Canada, which had been had a player name and number added to it. And that number for the Team Canada jersey was 64. Stanley. Hashtag Team Stanada. I tweeted that out last night. I could not take a picture of this dude. I laughed so hard. What a move. It's gotten a lot of people having fun with it on social media. Obviously, Stan was not on the Four Nations team and not on the Olympic team, but making a lot of fans more probably and turning around a lot of people that were very harsh critics of him in previous seasons. I thought he had a nice game last night and had a few moments as well, including a dominant power play where they stopped the play because Matthew Schaefer was hurt, much to the chagrin of everybody in the building, considering the timing of that was strange. And of course, Schaefer was the goods as delivered. He had a rough night though. He got roughed up a few times. Was down after the Jets' first goal. Ended up leaving for a good period in the first. Ended up coming back. Scored the goal to pull the Islanders within 5-4 last night. But let's hear from Coach Scott Arniel. He spoke after the game, after the Jets made it 3 in a row. Here's the Jets head coach.
We knew we were going to get some offensive time if we got through that neutral zone, and I thought we did a pretty good job of it. A lot of chances we attacked the net, and again, shots or opportunities from shots to screens and, rebounds, those type of things. So I like the fact that we're doing it, and we're doing it consistently.
What about the response after the Islanders tied up quickly there? What about the response from your team?
Yeah, we got, we obviously really didn't like that first goal we gave up, but we turned a couple over. But at the end of the day, it's we got back to what we had to do, and we obviously that was a big goal there at the end where we had traffic again, a shot from the top, and those are the things that you want to continue to do, and we did it.
Yeah, pretty clear they wanted to shoot the puck and get traffic in front of Sorokin, and it certainly did pay off last night. We mentioned Jonathan Toews, 3 straight. Depth scoring coming in. Lowry getting on the board. He was the first star of the game last night. Here's Arnie on starting to get some contributions down the lineup.
It means a lot, obviously. Now every line's dangerous and makes it for the opposition as well. They just can't, just sort of zero in just on Scheif's line, and I think that you can see guys making plays now, feeling more confident with the puck, and when you do that, you play more of a puck possession game.
How is your blood pressure when you have a 3-goal lead go to 0 goals and then back to 2 over the course of 45 real minutes?
Yeah, I've had a lot of good practice here in the last month, so.
Pretty good line from Arnie. Listen, he'd prefer it to go the way that it did for his team last night than what we saw in all those other tight games. Bottom line, the Jets make it 3 in a row. Here's Arnie on stringing 3 wins together, looking ahead to Minnesota.
This is, obviously we know what we did prior to the last 3 games, and we're making some hay here with these last 3, and that's what's the most important, that we just keep grinding, finding a way, to get points. And, it's going to have to take this, even more of it, going to a tough building next in Minnesota. So, a nice road win to help, come back home and have to do it again here with a few more teams. So, I think that when we've played some good games here, earlier on we didn't get the results that we were after, but the last 3 have been certainly a lot better.
All right, so there's Coach Scott Arniel. We've got more from Coach and Milestone Mark Scheifele as well coming up. But I do want to thank our friends at Uptown Alley. Cold for the next couple months. There's no better place to get together with your friends, your family, and kill a few hours and having a blast down at Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. If you haven't been to their new facility, it's absolutely phenomenal. Tons of 5-pin lanes. They've got 10-pin bowling lanes as well. A massive state-of-the-art arcade and fun carnival-style games where you win tickets to exchange for prizes that you can take home, all while offering an amazing selection of food and beverage that will make your outing or gathering an absolute home run. Unbelievable spot for birthday parties for kids, teens, and adults. And if you're thinking about maybe some sort of a group or corporate outing, Uptown Alley can take care of everything for you. You just pick your activities, what you're going to be eating, any add-ons, and their event staff will take care of all of it. And, of course, every day after 9 p.m., they've got that great bowl and play special. $20.49 for 90 minutes of 5-pin bowling and a $10 arcade card. Pop down and see them on St. Matthews. Check them out online at uptownalley.ca for more information on your next event. You can also give them a call at 488-0000. Tell them the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. Folks, we are into the new year, and many people are planning to make some big moves in 2026. If that includes actually moving, give our pals at Rolly's Transfer a call. The local experts, family-owned and operated, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. You can check out everything they've got going on at their great website at rollys.com. In the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. Make sure to use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today over at rollys.com. I got to shout out our pals over at St. Patel Dental Center, Dr. Terry and his great staff, taking care of a number of WSTers and getting great comments from everyone that heads down there. Folks, if you're looking for a new long-term home for you and your family when it comes to dental services, head on over to St. Vital Dental Center, like generations of Winnipeggers have been doing for years. And they've got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road with convenient free parking right behind the building and a full array of dental services for customers from 6 months to 99 plus. For all your dental needs, make it St. Vital Dental Center. They'd love to see you. Find out more or make an appointment today online at stviteldental.ca. And a big cheers to the win last night. We're going to talk a little Bombers with Bob Irving and the Bomber offseason, just where the franchise is right now a little later on in the program. Of course, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I don't know, I can tell you that with all this snow on the ground, there is a little bit of gleam in my eye hearing what they're talking about, the CFL offseason meetings, free agency coming up, knowing that we'll be sipping on the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Canadian Club at Princess Auto Stadium in what hopefully will seem like no time. In the meantime, head on over to your local Manitoba Liquor Mart. You can get the great taste of Canada's iconic Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, as well as the limited edition Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale Pre-Mixed Cocktail, ready to go in 4-packs at the LC, and you can also grab it in 473 milliliter cans at your local beer store when you're popping in. Big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club. All right, we're going to be welcoming John Shannon to the program in just a few minutes. Let's hear a little bit more from the coach in the meantime. And, of course, it was another one-goal game that went the Jets' way, and that was not something we'd been talking about recently. Arnie was asked if the team's feeling more comfortable in one-goal games right now.
Yeah, a little trouble hitting the open net, but other than that, I think that it'd be nice if we not so much for the my blood pressure, but at the end of the day, we're doing a better job in recognizing that. Again tonight, we did a good job like we did the other night in the third period, where we didn't give much. I know they got some stuff, obviously the 6-on-5 at the end, but I liked a lot of how we stayed over top of people and really pushed things to the outside.
Wasn't that long ago you called your team kind of fragile? What do you see the mindset of the team right now, especially the last?
Yeah, no, confident. It really is. And we were tentative. It looked like we were, afraid to make plays because we were afraid that maybe something bad would happen. Now you're seeing, each and every line go out there with confidence and making plays and spending time in the offensive zone with that confidence. And that's you can't play this game on your heels. You got to play it on your toes, and certainly a lot more of that.
All right. Now, one more from Coach, and then we're going to bring in our pal John Shannon for a little more on the Jets. It was a milestone night. Actually, twice. Because, of course, the first assist, number 500, was erroneously credited to Mark Scheifele. He did the cut it, but then got a chance to really bask in the congratulations from fans after making it. Here's what Arnie had to say about his number one center getting his 500th assist in the NHL.
That's special, obviously. I think he got a couple of catch there. I think what's Thomas is the guy with the most, but he's been around a long time and he's been extremely consistent over his career. And I think that we've seen a great player. You guys have seen him, certainly evolve from the young player that he was when he first came here, and now he's a veteran guy that is an elite player, and he scores and he makes plays, and that's a great number to be at.
All right, there's Coach Arneil. We'll have more from Scott on tomorrow's program, post-morning skate, getting ready for this quick one-off in the Twin Cities tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild. Let's talk more Jets and NHL and welcome in the one and only John Shannon back to Winnipeg Sports Talk. John, best of the new year to you. Great to have you back on the program. How's things?
I'm great, Andrew. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'll tell you what, I'm in a much better mood today than I was on Friday. I was looking back at it, and I don't know. I think like everyone in this city, that losing streak was, I don't know. I was somewhat cantankerous after the Edmonton game when it made 11 in a row. But funny I think back to Friday and what a fun night in the building it was, the way the fans responded and got behind the team despite where they had put themselves in. And, they sort of followed it up with a couple more wins, which certainly, makes the people feel a little bit better, although, man, is an uphill climb. What's your read on the Jets right now, having put 3 wins together after a miserable period that, could still be what really puts them in a situation that it's tough to make up?
Well, to me, they're like the patient that's in ER, and we've had the paddles out for 3 games, and we got a pulse. There are signs of life, Andrew, which I think is probably the best thing to say at this point. And the heartbeat is getting stronger every day, every game. When you think that they are still making some silly mistakes in their own zone. The defensive structure isn't, I don't think, where the coaching staff would like it to be. But they're getting depth scoring a bit more. Jonathan Toews has, I think, finally shown what we expected to get out of Jonathan Toews from October on. And I think really the best thing that we saw was how they reacted to losing the 3-goal lead last night. And so all of a sudden it's 3-3. The Islanders look like they're on a roll, and the Jets respond with 2 of their own quick goals, and that made all the world of difference.
Yeah, it certainly was nice to be on the right side of a couple of those. They certainly found multiple ways of being on the wrong side of it during that stretch. And John, it's so funny talking about this team right now in where they are. And again, okay, they're ahead of the Vancouver Canucks. It looks a little bit more doable now that you've put 3 wins in a row. But we all know what the math is with all the teams to pass. Everyone's getting points. They're playing each other. I mean, if this is going to happen, it's going to need to be a long, extended period of consistent winning that gets them back into it, which puts Kevin Cheveldayoff in a really unique situation that really hasn't been in before. We know what the expectations were at the start of the year, but I think everything had to be reevaluated at the midway point. You've got a number of players on expiring contracts. You got a player like Logan Stanley that I think has kind of come into his own that many people would love to see stick around, which would mean signing him or potentially dealing him. We all heard from Chevy at the beginning of last week what he said and maybe didn't say, but what do you make of the next 3-4 weeks and how that might determine some pretty significant decisions for the general manager as we get closer to the deadline?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the uphill climb it's steep. And when you consider the way the schedule is now going to work itself out, a ton more games against the Western Conference between now and the Olympic break and after the Olympic break. I don't think that we will know at trade deadline whether they're even in a playoff spot yet, but they could be closer to a playoff spot. It's going to take until the end of March. It's going to take that long because of the points you brought out. I mean, 3-point games, everybody's winning games. It's going to be difficult. Then there has to be a philosophical discussion internally with the Jets. What do we want to get out of this year? Do we need playoff dates? How many playoff dates do we want? Are we prepared to sell our souls for those playoff dates? And I think that's something that Kevin and obviously Mark Chipman and the staff will have to discuss in order to try to figure out, are we better off being a seller at the deadline and therefore building for next year already if we feel confident that we can do that? There are a lot of dilemmas right now for this hockey club. The one thing that would remedy that is to continue to win for the next little while, particularly until, that first week in February when everybody takes the break. If they win a lot more than they lose over that period of time, then there'll be a lot more positive discussions over the Olympic break than I would suspect that we would have had if the ups and downs and the roller coaster had continued, or the roller coaster does continues. They're not out of the woodwork yet.
No,
they're not. There's at least they're winning at home. Say what you want. I mean, this homestand, everybody pointed to this homestand, Andrew, and said, boy, this homestand's really important. Well, you know what? They're right. It's really important, and they've done okay with it. When you consider the 3 victories. Yeah, the Oiler loss sucked, but the next 3 have given the fan base and even the team a little bit of a spark.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's some more smiles and just some more, relaxed play. And, I thought Eric Comrie talked about just getting back to doing what they love and having a little fun with it. And you know what? Winning is fun, especially for those guys. I mean, there's always the conversations about, quote unquote, tanking the season. Players will never do that. And, and this is the thing about this Jets team, which is so shocking that they're in the situation they are in to begin with. Like how they ended up at the midway point in last place when you have Scheifele and Connor and Morrissey and Hellebuck and Velarde just speaks to what a strange year that it's been so far. And obviously there's a lot of people that look at where they are and going, let's face it, this team's not winning the Stanley Cup this year. The best possible result of the year would maybe be to stay right down near the bottom and get a player that could be franchise changing in the long run. The team is just probably too good to be there for that. And obviously we've seen a few wins coming. What would probably be the most painful, though, John, would be to play well enough to sort of get back into it, miss by a few points, and lament earlier losses in the season, and then be picking like 15th overall in the draft and not being invited to the playoff party.
Yeah. I think really right now the challenge will be to play relevant games in March and April. If you can play relevant games in March and April and excite the fan base, and because you've already made the decision, Andrew. You've already made the decision that this is your core. They're all under contract. Everybody's under contract. We're not talking a Vancouver rebuild here. We're talking about how do we enhance the core? How do we enhance Hellebuck? How do we enhance Morrissey, Sandberg, the three forwards you mentioned? How do we do that? That decision has already been made. So then what you have to figure out is, because a lot of this is about money. I hate to say it. A lot of it's about money. This team, in the last few years hasn't been as profitable as it once was. It was starting to turn the corner because the team was so successful on the ice, which was a real positive. This might be a step back. But if you can excite the fan base between now and the end of the regular season with great hockey, exciting hockey, then it might be worth it. The other aspect of this is with 16 guys from the President's Trophy team still on this roster. What's to say that you don't get a wild card spot in the West and go on a run? This team is good enough to go on a run. And that becomes another one of those, you almost have to have a ledger of, what are the pros and what are the cons, and make that decision of, let's try to keep everybody involved. Let's try to keep everybody engaged. And we also get a sense, as you talked about off the top, we get a sense what this team means to the city.
Oh yeah.
We got a real sense. It's one thing to say the Bombers are great. The Bombers do this. The Bombers, sell out every game at home. But, the barometer of the Winnipeg Jets for that 11-game streak, you could tell how important it was to the everyday guy. Oh. And that's worth something. That is worth something. So I'm one of those guys that I believe that you get in and win. And I think that they're already 2/3 there, with the fact that they have all their stars already under contract long term. I've
always been someone that would agree with the get in, find a way to get in. That's the first bit. Then everyone starts at zero and you see what happens. What is very intimidating is what is awaiting the second wild card team, and that's this Colorado Avalanche that has been an absolute bulldozer all season long. But again, how many times have we gone to April, and what was the situation in January is very far from the situation at that point. And that is the old thing, why they play the games. There's one player in particular I wanted to ask you about, and he's had a breakout season. He becomes more popular by the game. I'm talking about Logan Stanley. The goals have come. He's gone from, being a social media whipping boy to a player that, after the Jets have put so much into, there's worry about him leaving. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And, certainly when we think about what teams are looking for in and around the playoffs to add, I think he's a really attractive piece. A big defenseman. He's added some offense to his game. And as Dave Pagnotta mentioned yesterday, he's making just over $1 million, which is very attractive for teams trying to squeeze him in. How do you see this playing out, or what will be the variables in it? The likelihood of the team making an offer and re-signing him after everything they put in, or do you think they see him as one of their most valuable trade chips that can maybe in a lost season get back some of the assets that they've sent out the door trying to win a cup the last couple of years?
So let me get this straight. You've invested all this time in this young guy. You and he have taken abuse from the fan base for 3 years. He has turned a corner. He does have offensive skills. He's still tougher than nails. He's got a wingspan like a condor. He's the future, man. I mean, if they aren't talking now, something's wrong. They've got to be talking. They've got to be dealing with this and be proactive because, I mean, Logan Stanley, as this season has gone on, I would argue that beyond Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, Logan Stanley's been the best story on the hockey club. He's been the best story all season long with what he's done. He has become an asset to the hockey club. I'm not trading him unless I'm waving the white flag, and I know I can get a couple of good assets for him. But at the same time, are you going to allow the other team to sign him? I mean, I'm trying everything I can reasonably to sign Logan Stanley because I think Logan Stanley has become a real positive for this hockey club.
Would you agree?
When you look at what the defense is, I mean, the elements that he offers, which is why they invested in him, which is why they've spent this time. You're not getting rid of him now.
Would you agree? I mean, to me, they need to figure that out before the trade deadline.
Now.
Yeah, exactly. Because
now.
if that is not, because I mean, he did request a trade a couple years ago. He does know that he's now going to be an unrestricted free agent, and that it might be a very envious position for him to be in. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that's got to be at the top of the list to figure out what one way or the other, where they're going with that. Because I'm sure you'd agree if he told them, listen, I'm not re-signing, I'm going to test free agency. No, that's an asset that is in a light years different place than it was with the way that he played over the last number of seasons. And now is all that matters when you're making calls to other GMs.
And if they have had that conversation or that conversation occurs before the deadline in March, that there'll be 6, 7, 8 teams on hold because Kevin starts to negotiate with one of them. I mean, but I'm not even contemplating that because I think the way this organization has worked so well and so hard to keep its veterans, they talk about family, they talk about culture. There are few places in the league that treat their players as well as the Winnipeg Jets treat their players. And so to me, and I think Logan Stanley, who has grown up a Jet, would probably like to stay a Jet given the right situation.
John Shannon with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. You can hear him as part of the Superstation CJOB's Winnipeg Jets coverage throughout the year. Moving away from the Jets, or to a former Jet, I guess. What'd you think when your phone went off and Bones was getting back behind the bench this week?
So, truth be told, we had Rick on the show last Wednesday. And he talked about how much fun he's having. Everybody came for Christmas. He and Judy were planning some vacations. He had 3 or 4 dates on the TNT panel, including one tonight, Andrew. He was supposed to be on TV tonight. So I was actually working out in my backyard, and I got a text from Kelly Moore saying, "Did you ever think that Rick would work again?" And I misread it because I thought, well, Kelly's now just trying to be nice to me because he liked the podcast, and I said, no, I think he's retired. And Kelly was the one who said, you better check your social media accounts. And I was flummoxed. I was flummoxed. Now we hear the story that it was that morning, Monday morning, where Don Waddell phoned, and 2.5 minutes later, the deal was done. So it wasn't as if the previous Wednesday when he was working with us, he was deceiving us and telling us and trying to deflect. He had no clue that somebody was going to call him. And then you see the post-game press conference last night, and he talks about how he loves to work with young players, how he loves being behind the bench, and you understand why he's doing what he's doing. at least for 40 games, right? At least for 40 games.
He's just the best. I mean, just listening to his interviews before and after they got their win against Calgary yesterday was great. And yeah, folks, if you do want to check out the episode, it's of course 100% hockey with Millard and Shannon. And yeah, from 6 days ago, a lot of talk about the Jets and Winnipeg struggles from a guy that knows a thing or two about what what's behind the what's under the hood, if you will, with this hockey club.
Well, and for the record, I asked him directly, "Do you still believe in the core of the Winnipeg Jets?" And he said, "Yes, I do." So it was a very you could still feel and hear the enthusiasm he has for the game and for the Jets and for coaching throughout the interview. So in looking back, if somebody calling him on Monday morning and offering him a job now really doesn't surprise me.
John, something that is going to be dominating many of our hockey conversations over the course of the next month is the upcoming Olympic Games. First time we've had a chance to chat since the Canadian team was announced. What are your thoughts on Team Canada? And of course, really, I mean, unfortunate from a Winnipeg perspective that as it looks like Mark Scheifele won't be getting that call to be an Olympian.
You never know, though. I mean, when you look at the skill set that Braden Point has, if Braden Point can't play, you'd have to put Mark Scheifele on a list of guys that could potentially replace him. At least I would. Whether it's Sam Bennett or Connor Bedard or Mark Scheifele, a guy who can play special teams, can be versatile. So I wouldn't say it's 100% that he's not going to the Olympics, but there's Dumb and Dumber. There's still a chance. It's a really good hockey club. I'm happy for a guy like Bo Horvat, who has had a great season on the island. And, the goaltending to me was an interesting conversation. And I think it's Jordan Binnington's until he loses, which is what we saw at Four Nations. And then when it's not Jordan Binnington's, then it's Logan Thompson's. So
you think they'll start with Bitter?
I do. Yeah, I do. I just think that, John Cooper was adamant, and as I understand it in the meetings, that Jordan Binnington was his guy. And the loyalty factor and what Binnington did in the Four Nations will prove to be the right thing, possibly. Now, the fact that he's not even the number one goalie in St. Louis right now is fascinating. When you consider that it's a Winnipegger and Hofer that's doing a better job than he is. But I still think Jordan Binnington can elevate his game at key times, and whether it's a distraction or not, I think he's going to be the number one guy until further notice.
I have time for the argument that, listen, if you're winning, you want to keep that going. But my God, I was there in Boston. They won that gold medal by the most razor thin of margins. And listen, it was Binnington stepping up with some ridiculous saves in overtime. I do wonder, and this isn't just a goaltending question, about the entire team, John. If he doesn't make one of those saves, and that game is not a Canada win in overtime, it's a USA win in overtime, how different is this team going into the Olympic Games next month?
Well, that's an interesting question, because we, and I say the royal we as in Canada made more changes than the Americans did to the roster. Canada, Doug Armstrong's crew stuck with less players than Bill Guerin's team. Guerin was the guy who was very conservative in my mind in picking and choosing the roster, with just 3 changes. Well, actually, not even 3 changes, because you added 2, with just basically 1 change. And then Canada did it with 3 plus 2. So it's one of those things I think, and I think that's a lesson they learned from Torino, Andrew. You can't just go with the same old dogs, and you're going to pay the price. So to be a little younger, a little faster, I think is going to be a positive for Canada. At the Olympics. And it's going to be a hell of a tournament. It really is.
I mean, I can't wait. Now that they've figured out and the rink's actually playable, it sounds like it's going to go ahead.
Sure.
We can really get going. I will say this. I mean, as much as I was just really disappointed for Mark Scheifele and what he'd done to earn a spot on the team, with all the guys that they brought back, I was absolutely stunned that the guy that tied the gold medal game up and won the Conn Smythe Trophy last year, Sam Bennett, wasn't on the team. I mean, were you as surprised as I was that he didn't get the call?
Yeah, I think you have to be, because let's face it, Sam Bennett had maybe one of the best 9 months of anybody's career.
Incredible.
When you think about it. Just a fantastic season. But I'm not ruling out that he's not going to be there as well yet. I don't think we can. I mean, Canada plays on the 12th of February. You have until the day before that game to name your roster, to name your official roster. And so that's injury replacements, basically. So we'll wait and see what happens if they need to fly somebody over in order to replace an injured player.
Yeah, they stuck with the same blue line. I will say the kid we saw last night, Matthew Schaefer, is going to be on plenty of national teams over the course of the year, over the course of his career. I would have had time for him being on the team. But have you had a chance to talk to him yet, John, at all? And just thoughts about the rookie season that this young guy's having at 18 years old, playing like 26 minutes a night, dwarfing anybody else on his team?
No, I haven't. But the only thing I can say is that I did a game early in the season involving the Islanders. I think Edmonton was there. And the first 3 games, this kid had played more minutes than any other guy on the Islanders. And you worried, A, that, he's 18 years old, and B, that the veterans would be jealous. Because you know what? These guys are human. And they are, job security is important to them. And within a very short period of time, what Patrick Waugh and his group have done is that everybody understands Schaefer's value to this team, to the franchise, and they will protect him under no circumstance will they not, which is a tremendous positive for what they're trying to rebuild on the island. I mean, it's a great story. I mean, listen, when he put the puck in the net with 44 seconds to go last night, was there any doubt you thought that, they're going to give him the puck again and he might score again? It crossed my mind. And that's the new life that Matthew Schaefer has given to the Islanders as a team. They look pretty good. I know the Jets won, but the Islanders, once they got their legs, they looked pretty good last night.
Well, and you know what? They started off 0-3 on the season. Right. And you'll recall the Jets played there on that Monday on October 13th. This is his 3rd game in the NHL. And I just pulled up the box score from that game because Matthew Schaefer, in the 3rd game of the year, played 26-35, John. The next Islander defenseman in ice time was Tony DeAngelo at 17:46. I mean, 9 minutes more in his first week in the league. And I'll give Patrick Waugh a lot of credit too. I'm not sure, because of some of the things that you just mentioned, even if you have a horse like Matthew Schaefer, that a lot of NHL coaches would go all in that early on an 18-year-old defenseman.
No, listen, Patrick Waugh has been unorthodox his whole career, whether he was playing or his first stint coaching in Colorado, and even when he went back to the Q to coach the Rempire. Patrick Waugh has always, marches to his own drum. I mean, let's face it, he's reinvented how coaches pull goaltenders. And he's done so many things that make you think. And believing in Matthew Schaefer the way he has is one of those you go, you know what, you got to give Waugh some credit. He knows what he's doing.
John, so great having you on the program. Gang, make sure to check out and subscribe to 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon. If you want to check out the Bones episode, It's up there from 6 days ago. You can check it out on the YouTube or on the podcast. But you guys always have amazing guests. What's cooking coming up on 100% Hockey for us to look forward to?
It should be out in the next 15 minutes. Kenny Holland on what's going on in Los Angeles. We got into a long discussion about why Sergei Fedorov didn't sign there as a free agent when Kenny was the manager and how he negotiated that deal. And then on Friday, we're going to dig deeper into that Columbus Blue Jackets situation. Don Waddell's going to join us to talk about that 2.5-minute phone call with Rick Bowness on Monday.
Unbelievable. Great stuff, John. Nothing like it. 100% Hockey, folks. Make sure to check it out. Have a great day. Thanks so much for doing this, and I look forward to catching up soon.
Anytime, Andrew. Say hello to Wade for me.
I sure will do. Will do. Thanks so much, John. There is John Shannon. Of course, you'll also hear John contributing throughout the season on Jets broadcast over on OB. But I will definitely be checking out the Bones episode once we're done with WST today. Wiebe is on deck. We will have Bob Irving a little bit later on today. I want to thank Princess Auto for their wonderful support of WST over the years and into 2026. Speaking of 2026, Princess Auto is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. It's got everything to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. As you get into the new year, maybe a new list and some new projects, some new cool stuff. Well, it's all waiting for you at Princess Auto. There's 3 locations in Manitoba: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. And of course, you can start thinking about those projects anytime and order and shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. We're going to be firing up a little Chud's Power Sports Power Pole for the NHL a little bit later on. For Chud's, it's more like the powder pole right now because the snow has fallen. Snowmobiling season has been fired up, and it is time to get out and hit the trails and start the year in adventure with our friends at Chud's. Of course, the January must-haves include ATVs, side-by-sides, personal transportation, and commercial XTVs featuring the top brands around: Argo, Arctic Cat, Polaris, Sasquatch, Evolution, Roxor, and Suzuki. And you can stay warm on the ice or plan your next getaway with comfort and confidence all winter long. They've got Forest River Aurora RVs and, of course, Forest River Grey Wolf fish houses to get you ready for ice season. 80 years in the business, family-owned and operated up in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. It is the Power Sports Superstore in Winnipeg. And, of course, Snowman awarded them the Dealership of the Year for their 50th anniversary over this year. The Derminator and the great people at Chud's would love to see you in Gimli. You can also check out everything they've got online at chudspowersports.com. And, of course, for all you need in parts and other great deals on clearance items and accessories, check out their sister site at truenorthparts.com. And, hey, Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are ready for you. Of course, they're powering a lot of the sleds and whatnot from Chud's that people are getting out on the water, on the trails this year. If you have battery needs, if you're not sure whether your car is going to be able to make it through the Winnipeg winter, get down to one of 2 Manitoba Battery locations, Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive in the south end of the city. They'll give you a free battery test. And then if you need a battery, well, why pay more? You'll get the best deals on the best batteries in town, beating the pants off the big box stores with a local touch and the best customer service around, including delivery options citywide inside the perimeter if you can't make it down. Manitoba Battery, 2 locations. Check them out and order online as well at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's welcome in the one and only, the well-hydrated Ken Wiebe, who joins us fresh back from the rink. Wiebe, what's going on?
Good afternoon, Andrew. I was not at the rink today, unfortunately, but I did see the news coming out of there. And the Elias Solomonson recall is official. And we would both expect him to be in the lineup on Thursday against the Minnesota Wild with news that Neil Pionk is heading onto IR here.
Yes, indeed. Were you? What was going on this morning? Little golf simulator time?
No, sir. No. Had a stomach bug earlier in the week, and just
How are you feeling?
just trying to catch up. Feeling better, Huss. I did manage to make it to the game last night. Working on getting the appetite back, but yes, it was watching from a distance today, but still watching nonetheless.
Well, everyone I think around town feeling a little bit better. This streak is over. I mean, hey, 3 wins in a row, is nice. We know that, as John Shannon just said, the climb is very steep. But just thoughts on, the last 3 games and moving on from such a dark period in a season for the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, Huss, I mean, the narrative is shifting. I wouldn't say it's changed completely. And I know there's folks in your chat room and online in both of our feeds that are still embracing, the alternative, which would be a high draft pick. But like I told you last week and the week before, I think the Jets are going to try to see where they're at come Olympic break here, Huss. I mean, if you put the pedal down during the 16-game month, you see where you're at. Suddenly, if that 8-point deficit is closer to 4 rather than 12, again, that may dictate what happens. Again, I'm not going out and changing my tune and saying the Jets are suddenly going to become buyers here, but in terms of what level of tear down or turnover, I mean, that is still left to be determined. But I think we know that there will be pieces that are in play, and an injury to a top 4 defenseman. The Jets are going to obviously put on a brave face, Huss, but I mean, losing a top 4 defenseman who logs the type of minutes that Neil Pionk logs, I mean, it's beneficial for Elias Solomonson, who deserves the call up. But it also means that it's a key player coming out of the lineup. Even though Pionk, you could tell the last couple of games, Huss, since blocking that shot, was certainly not operating at full speed or capacity here. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of what we're seeing from the Jets, we're seeing a lot of the same things, but they're finding a way to win games in games that they had been previously losing, Huss. I mean, that means, one more clear on the penalty kill, one more, shot block, one more smart play in the offensive zone, one more power play goal, one more save, those types of things that were really plaguing them during those, 11 consecutive wins and, losing 1-goal games 13 consecutive times before winning the last couple here. But yeah, I mean, the Jets are still battling, which is what we expect, us, and that's what we'll continue to expect because that's sort of how they're wired. They're not a team that's going to, roll over and just punt on the season when there's almost half a season left over. Certainly some areas they needed to clean up, Huss. I mean, you were there. The second period was a bit of an adventure. Let's put it lightly. There are some areas that still require further improvement, but I mean, a lot of the issues we were talking about on the homestand or going into the homestand, team hasn't scored. Well, they got 20 goals in 5 games, so that would be an improvement in that area. Puck management and defending, I think, is still a work in progress, even though they were better at it in the majority of the games, I guess, or at least parts of those games. But special teams also improving to a certain degree also. But I think the wild part, Huss, is that Connor Hellebuyck doesn't quite look like himself right now. And again, this is not laying blame at Connor Hellebuyck, but I mean, the facts are he's given up 3 goals or more in 9 of his last 13 starts. And that's abnormal for us to be seeing. Now, we know that environment plays a big role in that. But that Duclair goal is one that we have not seen go in on Connor Hellebuyck very often in the last decade. So to me, I think that Connor can elevate his game. He would be the first to tell you that. The other big happening was Eric Comrie coming up with a big win on the homestand as well after, a pretty rough go. And, we know he's one of the most positive people in the world. And he admitted he was pretty down in the dumps and needed a boost from his wife, Haley, in terms of putting up the few photos in his car to remind him why, how much he loves the game. And he responded accordingly. So it'll be interesting to us to move forward here because, the Jets know they need to go on a crazy ripper of a winning streak to really get back in it. They're going to catch the Wild. Now, some people will say it's at a good time, 1-2-2 in their last 5 compared to 3-1-1 for the Jets. But we know when these two teams get together, it's usually a fun game and often a close game. So that'll be a fun one. And then the Leafs, even though they lost to Utah, I mean, they were on a huge heater of their own. So A couple fun games on the horizon, and then the Jets play, a couple teams that they're chasing in the St. Louis Blues and Chicago Blackhawks in the reverse order there with Taves' return to Chicago. So just when we think the next week is going to either define the season or give us all these answers, there's another week around the horizon with the potential to give us more answers. But
yeah, well, I mean, listen, they can postpone the final judgment on the season by winning.
Sure.
I mean, anything else it's pretty clear. I mean, we're down to 35 games or whatever left, and
yeah, 500 is not going to cut it, right, Huss? I mean, this is very simple. I mean, it's got to be around 700, and that is a tall task for even teams like the Colorado Avalanche, who are far and away the best team in the NHL this year.
Hey, just on Helly for a minute.
Yep.
No, I just pulled up his numbers, and it's sort of startling to see.
899, startling to see.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time that his save percentage didn't start with a 9? I mean, we're probably going back to the first season of being a starter. And even then, I think it was probably ahead of it. There's, and with the Olympics coming up, obviously he came back early, but I mean, where do you watched him for a long time. I mean, what's missing right now from Connor Hellebuyck?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't profess to be a goalie expert, but I mean, as you mentioned, I've watched him for a long time. I mean, we're not seeing as much, Connor Hellebuyck's superpower is that he makes difficult saves look routine, Huss. That has been his superpower from the very beginning, big and boring, everything that he talked about, body in motion, all of those things. But right now, I wouldn't say that he's fighting the puck, but it just doesn't look like it's happening as easily. And naturally, that could have something to do with the knee injury that he dealt with and had the arthroscopic surgery for. But I mean, Connor also has an aura around him, Huss. When you become one of the rare goalies to win the Hart Trophy, you play with a certain level of swagger. And I don't think that Connor Hellebuyck has ever lacked confidence. But right now in his game, I don't know that confidence is shining through at the same level as we're used to seeing. I don't expect him to be sub 900 for very long. And as you mentioned, I mean, it is startling to look down at the sheet and see 899 rather than, not just 900, but 925 or better. So it just says that he hasn't been the human eraser. Lots of people are looking for the smallest little things, and we got the Zapruder film out and everything else. So, can he push across the same way? I mean, I just think there have been situations where I wouldn't say he's completely losing his net, but Huss, I mean, the goal that was disallowed on the coach's challenge the other night is a great example. Yes, there was contact from Paul Cotter, but Connor had slid a little bit further through the crease than we're used to seeing. So I think the Jets there definitely was contact, but I think the Jets were fortunate in that situation because, the shot may have gone in anyway. Now, it definitely prevented Hellebuyck from being able to reset. So it was the right call ultimately. But I mean, there just have been some things that have been a little bit, leaking through the body. I mean, even yesterday is a great example. He's just not catching the puck the way that we're used to seeing. Everything looks like it's just been a little bit more challenging for him at times. Yet there are moments in games where he makes big saves, and we know the puck went off the crossbar yesterday, causing the penalty shot for Emil Heineman. But Hellebuyck also made the save. He got a piece of it. That's why it hit the crossbar and didn't go straight in. And Heineman makes a great move. I mean, people who are saying, "Oh, Hellebuyck couldn't push off," that's a.
What'd you think about the penalty shot call?
That's a 10 out of 10 move. I mean, Huss, the beauty. The thing about that play in real time, I thought it was an obvious penalty shot call. But you look at the replay and then you're like, oh well. I mean, there is some contact, but I mean, Heineman still gets a pretty good shot away on the penalty shot portion. But I definitely think that Heineman had a step on Shen and the other defenseman, so he was in the clear. But it's kind of ticky-tack in terms of yes, the hand was the stick was in the hands momentarily, but I mean, I don't mind that it's called. But again, as we try to remind folks, refs don't get the replay. It's real time only, and in real time, I thought it was a penalty shot. I mean, we're all on press row. We're kind of looking, you're wondering, and then the referee points and you're like, oh yeah, well, should be a penalty shot. Then you see guys come off the bench and are freaking out after watching the replay, and you're thinking, well, maybe not, right? I mean, that's the thing that's tough about the game. And Huss, we've talked about it a lot. I don't think that that's a situation where video replay should be. I don't know that you can throw a challenge flag on that one. I don't know that the game benefits from it, but I can understand why the Jets were upset about it. I can also understand why it was called. In real time, I thought it was a penalty shot.
Good stuff. I hate this. Well, just moving off the heli, but I do want to put this to the chat because we're already getting some good stuff on this. Why not question of the day for our friends at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray? Just your thoughts on where Connor Hellebuck is at right this season. Obviously, he's got the Vezinas, he's got the Hart Trophy. Numbers aren't there. Your thoughts on Hellebuck right now in the chat for the why not question of the day. You mentioned Luke Schenn. He was the guy that was the step behind and got the whack in. We've seen a lot of, Dave Pagnotta was on yesterday saying that Schenn has expressed that he'd like to be moved to a contender and a team where he can play more. I'm not sure whether that opportunity is out there. What do you think the likelihood of him being moved? And what could Luke Schenn garner in return for the Winnipeg Jets if they do move on from the veteran defenseman in your mind, Ken?
Yeah, and not disputing Dave's report, but I think the wording is important here. I don't think that Luke Schenn has flat out asked for a trade, Huss. I think he's open to the prospect of moving to a contending team if that is something the Jets want to do. And I think that's important based on what we saw last year with Luke flying back and forth to Nashville and how tough it was on him and his young family to be away from their dad after he got traded from Nashville to Winnipeg. We know there will be a market for Luke Schenn. I mean, understand that some folks may not share those sentiments, but Huss, I mean, the same reason that Luke Schenn was coveted by the Jets at the deadline, those things still apply. This is a guy who plays a physical brand of hockey. He is a Stanley Cup champion. He's a guy you can use in the seventh defenseman as insurance. You can plug him in on the third pairing. He can kill penalties. He's going to play a physical style of hockey. So in the right environment, Luke Schenn can help a team. And I understand some folks, may not share those opinions, like I said. But again, in terms of what he can bring back, Huss, I mean, I think it would be very difficult for the Jets to get back what they put into Luke Schenn. I don't see a second and a fourth round pick coming back, which again, if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, you'd love to get that back. But I don't see that. I don't see that as a return for right now. The team coming in here on Saturday, Huss, the Toronto Maple Leafs are a team that has been linked to Luke Schenn, and he makes sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, as a potential upgrade to a Philippe Myers on the third pairing. If Chris Tanev is done for the year, it would make sense for the Leafs to add someone like Luke Schenn. You put him with a mobile partner, you put him with Simone Benoit on the third pairing, and then you take your chances there. So what the Leafs have to offer, I'm not 100% sure if they'd prefer to go prospect rather than draft pick. We know that, we've talked about the Jets draft capital a lot. The Leafs don't have a ton of draft capital either. So,
well, on that, Ken, do you think, I mean, if you're Cheveldayoff and you're like say it's a third round pick that's available, and I think that would probably be, I'd probably do that deal in a heartbeat. But from Chevy's perspective, would they rather have maybe a prospect that was drafted a couple years ago and someone that might be closer to making an impact if they think that he can be a player? Or will it be more, unless something significant changes, stockpiling some of the picks that they have used as on the way out the door as they've tried to make runs at the deadline the last couple seasons?
Yeah, it depends who's available, Huss. And again, we've talked about the importance of trying to recoup some of that draft capital that was lost for the Winnipeg Jets. So, I mean, I think it would make sense that they would pursue that. But if there is a prospect in the system of the Leafs system that is maybe not, accelerating up the path, but they see as, their scouts have identified as someone that could maybe flourish in another situation, of course, you look at that also. I mean, the Jets aren't, we've said it a lot, Huss. I mean, no matter how this next stretch of time goes, the Jets are not going to be going into full teardown mode. So, there would be some appeal to maybe grabbing a prospect, instead. But I mean, the Leafs also don't have a ton of draft picks or a bunch of prospects, at least not ones that are close to being ready to jump in the lineup based on what, moving out Fraser Minton and guys like that in the past. So I don't think they would be, overly, in a hurry to move out a prospect instead of draft capital either. So, I mean, it's a fun discussion, and, who knows how serious it gets. But again, I also think that the original reason this came up, Huss, is that, I mean, Luke Schenn said it flat out himself right before he played his 1100th game. There aren't going to be a ton more of these milestones left for me. So if you are a player that is near the end of the line, of course it makes sense to want to go to a place, a team that is more, has more solid footing in a playoff spot. Again, I'm not saying Luke Schenn's retiring at the end of the year, but I think he's whether it's this year or if he plays another year, that still is left to be determined. But if you're getting close to the end, you would obviously want to take another run at it, like you thought you were taking with the Jets when you arrived here.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I mean, if there's a market for Luke, I think they make moves. Obviously, you want to get Neil Pionk back in that lineup, but it does open up a spot for a player like Elias Salmonson, who I was assuming was going to probably play significant minutes in March and April. Right. And if the opportunity, if he shows well in this most recent call-up, we'll go from there. We've been talking a lot about Big Stan this week, not only because a guy showed up to the game last night in a Four Nations jersey with 64 Stanley on it, but because of the year that he's had and his contract situation at the end of the year. Ken, how hard do you think the Jets will be trying to re-sign Stan before the trade deadline? And have you given much thought to what a Stanley contract, considering the season that he's having right now, would look like?
Sure thing, Huss. I mean, I know you asked me this last week, and quite frankly, you kind of caught me off guard with the thought that maybe he's one of the guys that could bring back the best potential return. And I know it drove some folks who are listening, a little bit sideways when I suggested that, the Jets have invested a lot in that player. Now, I didn't say that meant they were automatically keeping them. It just meant that for a draft and development franchise, when you invest 10 years in a player, I mean, show me the last player that they shipped out at the deadline in those circumstances. I mean, I guess Andrew Kopp would be one of them. But for the most part, the Jets try to sign those players. Now, Huss, I mean, I think a day after you asked me, Chris Johnston came out with the report in The Athletic saying that maybe Logan Stanley has played his way into a potential 5x5 scenario, Huss. Now, that has changed my opinion on the outcome, at least to a certain degree. Now, again, players are always going to shoot high, but, for me, just put it this way, Huss, as long as Josh Morrissey and Dylan Sandberg are here, that would suggest Logan Stanley's, most likely position is as a third pairing guy. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not saying that Logan Stanley can't get that on the open market, but I think he'd have a hard time getting it in Winnipeg, even with all of the things that he's brought to the table this year that John Shannon, was eloquently pointing out in your conversation with him about half an hour ago. But for me, I mean, if that's the case, now you find out what the number is, Huss. And again, Logan Stanley can be a pending UFA on July 1st. So if he doesn't want to show all of his cards, he doesn't have to. But to your point, to John, if he doesn't provide a number that is suitable to the Winnipeg Jets, both in terms of term and length of contract, then yes, you have to try to utilize that asset to the best of your ability and try to bring back as strong a package as you can. And again, some people may think this is not flip-flopping. My opinion on Nikolai Ehlers is simple. You got 10 good years out of Nikolai Ehlers and 10 productive years, and when you're in first place in the league, you don't trade that player for future assets.
100%.
But Logan Stanley is in a different situation, Huss. Even if the Jets try to make a run here, you don't push pause on your organizational lifeline by saying, sure, we'll just play it out and try to sign you in the summertime. I think that if the teams don't come to terms or at least aren't close in their negotiations by, early March at the latest, then you have to maximize that asset. Now, again, some other folks that have, gone on to the Logan Stanley bandwagon would say, well, you make every effort to sign him. And I think that that's fair, but it has to be at, the right price point. And I mean, we know some of the Jets' next wave of prospects. We just saw them win a gold medal, Huss. That is Sasha Boumediene and that is Alphonse Frey. Those are two left shot defensemen that, again, I think they're close to on the horizon, but I also don't think they're NHLers, for 2 years. So that's what puts this discussion in a little bit of a tough spot, because you would, and again, I'm not saying that Frey or Boumediene can't play the offside, but if Stanley signs a 5-year deal, you're basically, it's not a full roadblock, but you're definitely, putting someone in a spot that you're expecting them to have for that, the majority of those 5 years. And then either you're moving off on prospects or you're moving off on one of the other defensemen. So it's a complicated scenario. Huss, you're in the building a lot. I think that you've also touched on Logan making a trade request, and maybe that still sits at the back of his mind. But, being around the rink on a regular basis and seeing Logan Stanley, I think he quite enjoys the fact that almost every time he touches the puck now, there's a bit of an uproar within it has to feel better than the alternative. This is a first-round draft pick that got booed lustily at various points of his career. So I don't know if I'm not saying hometown discount or anything like that, Huss, but I'm thinking that, if you're Logan Stanley, you've signed a couple of shorter term deals, maybe you can find a way where it makes sense to, stick around to see what the next part of the window looks like before maybe needing the security of a long-term deal. But we also know that often players would prefer the long-term deals. So, that's what it puts it in an interesting
it's a
scenario.
career year going into unrestricted free agency. There's no guarantees on anything beyond this year. And his timing is impeccable. I will give him that.
And he's going to get paid by somebody for sure.
Well, and that's the thing. And listen, I could totally understand if he said, hey, considering everything that I've been through here, I'm going to see what's open. He knows that there'll be a market for him. And if it did get to that point, the more I think about it and talk to some people in other markets, and Pagnotta made a great point yesterday that I hadn't really been thinking about. Not only is he a 6'7" guy with a massive reach that's actually added some offense this year and has really taken a step forward, he's so cheap. And that adds to the value of a player at the deadline. So, to me, this is probably the most interesting scenario. Other guys, if they can get something for them, they'll probably trade them. It'll open up some spots for some younger guys. Maybe you bring some other guys in different scenarios. Stanley is the one guy that I am with you. I do think the organization would love to keep him, but this next month or so through the Olympic break is going to be a time where they're going to need to talk to that agent and find out realistically the possibility of, first of all, his intentions, if he's open to stay, what it would cost them. And if that doesn't work out, I dare say the Jets will have a pretty valuable trade chip in and around the deadline that will be of interest to a number of NHL GMs and teams.
Yeah, for sure, Hudson. That's the thing that you have to realize. You have to look at the full package. And yes, there's been a lot of sweat equity invested, but if that investment is not leading to future years, then you have to maximize it as best you can. And again, I understand people are speculating and throwing it around. Ken Logan Stanley, what is he going to bring back? Is it a second round pick? Some folks are suggesting maybe it could be a first at the bottom of the draft. Who knows? Rick Bowness is a fan of Logan Stanley. Does Rick Bowness stick around longer than this year? He makes sense for Columbus. Columbus already has one of the toughest guys in the NHL in Matthew Olivier.
What about San Jose?
San Jose's got lots of money to spend for sure, Huss.
They could sign him. Ryan Reeves is probably going to be, I don't know how much longer he's got. I would suggest it's probably at the end of this year. Comes in at 27.
I think he'd like to play one more year. I think he's getting closer to another, I think 1,000 games is something that's on his horizon. But it's no guarantee. Huss, San Jose makes a lot of sense. And that's a team with cap space. The reason why I mentioned Columbus, they're a team with a lot of money to spend. We know, hey, I'd have to look back, but Huss, I'm pretty sure that the one season opener where Logan Stanley was in and Dylan Sandberg was out, wasn't that in Bones' first year? I'd have to go back and look, but it's been within the last 4 years, so I think that timeline would line up. So, we know he's a fan, and when you're in a place that already has a bona fide tough guy, man, when you have two nuclear options in that regard, it would make, and what did Rick Bowness say yesterday, Huss? This team needs to be nastier. And hey, we get it. Logan Stanley hasn't always been as nasty as some folks would like him to be, but he certainly has upped that game this year. in terms of the physical nature and the willingness to drop the gloves and, sometimes swing first and ask questions later. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a market for him both at the deadline and in free agency if he happens to get there. Now, what's the game of chicken going to be like? And Huss, we just talked about Shen. Now, that second round pick could be somewhere in the low to mid 30s. So can you recoup something at the bottom of a draft from a contender that can fit that contract a little bit more easily under the cap? I mean, that's where we're looking at moving forward here.
Yeah, listen, I'll say this, considering the season that he's had and what he brings to the table, if Luke Shen got Nashville a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick, I think it's very realistic. The only thing is that a lot of those teams that are kind of near the bottom of the draft, the top teams in the league, have already traded their first-round picks.
Yep, fair.
Which is somewhat unique for this year. But make no mistake, the value of this player has never been higher. And, how things go between the team, the agent over the next little while, and discussions that, as John said, probably are already happening. If it does go the other way, I think the return certainly will surprise people if they had to predict what that would be at the end of last season with what he's done so far. Hey, before we go, quick thought on the turnaround of Jonathan Toews and what he's doing. And I guess while we're talking about, we'll see what happens with this season.
Yeah.
It's a very unique because, I mean, he's beloved in this city. There's a special story around it. Obviously, it went really poorly for a stretch for both he and the team. Now things are rolling right now. How do you see that playing out depending on what happens the rest of the year? And would that even be an option? Or if he's playing the way, do they probably try and extend him and keep him around for another year, at least to finish out his career as a Jet?
Yeah, Huss, I mean, this isn't Barry Horowitz time for me, but I believe I've been talking about this for several months here about the patience that was required. And for all the folks that had, dismissed the ability of Jonathan to handle a second line role, I present the evidence. Again, it's 10 games of evidence, Huss, but it's pretty substantial evidence in those 10 games where he's really clicking with Cole Perfetti and Gabe Vilardi. Now, we know Cole Perfetti needs a new deal, but Cole Perfetti is someone in the next wave of the core that the Jets want to have around for a long time. So, again, I'm not saying sign him and give him everything under the sun, but I think that if Jonathan can continue this pace over the last 37 games, there's a case to be made for another 1-year deal as kind of a gap year where he handles that second line job. Braden Yager, if he shows that he's capable and up to it, sure. But Yager's also a guy that can play on the wing, Huss. So for me, depending on what the Jets are going to do and where they draft and what they get, I think that Toews would be a guy that they want to keep around. I mean, we've heard Cole Perfetti talk openly about the influence Jonathan has had on him, and both on and off the ice. 7 points in the last 10 games. That's impressive. He was added to the first power play unit, like you and I discussed before he was added to it. I think he's a guy who's moved the puck very well. His vision is on display. And, I think he showed a side yesterday that people haven't seen before yet this year as a member of the Winnipeg Jets, and going right at Scott Mayfield after a questionable hit on Cole Perfetti. I think that Toews is doing a nice job. And Huss, the biggest thing here, and we've known this to be true, he's moving around on the ice a lot better, which is natural after getting those 40 games under your belt after a 2.5-year absence. Now, it's a busy month. Can you sustain that over this next stretch of time? I told you the first day he was signed, I think Jonathan came back not just for one last hurrah. I think he wanted to come back for multiple seasons, provided it went well for him. We know there was a tough patch for about 25, 30 games for sure. But I don't see a guy who is like just hanging on by a thread and is tired of hockey. I think I see a guy who's got his life back and wants to keep chasing that silver mug, even though he has won everything under the sun.
Well, that business about chasing the mug is interesting because, I mean, if we'd had this conversation a month ago, I mean, it would have been a short conversation. He's now playing the way that if this team is not in playoff contention, I think would have a lot of interest in and around the league. I mean, is that something you could see happening?
Yeah, it's an interesting call, Hassan. And there, I would hearken back to this. I think if this is it for him, and if he decides that this is his only, this will be his last hurrah, then I do think he'd be more open to it. And again, I think he would could be a guy that wants to chase it anyway. But I think it's special to him to play in his home market. And to your point, I mean, if he wants to play another year and the Jets want to have him back to play with Perfetti for one more year and take another shot at it, given the age of the core and the pieces that they have, I think he'd be fine staying. But I also do think that some of the teams that were interested in him originally, like the Leafs and, like the Colorado Avalanche, and I'd understand that some folks in this market might go wild over that prospect, but I think that Jonathan Toews would have appeal to the Colorado Avalanche in a fourth line center role. Some people have speculated about the Edmonton Oilers. Our buddy Tom Gazzola mentioned that. He had a question when I was on with him for one of the pregame shows, but I do think that he can help a team as long as he holds up physically and his body is held up. He hasn't missed a game yet. I'd be curious on, how it all works in terms of bonuses. I think the majority of his bonuses will be paid. The games played bonuses will be paid out by the time that he goes to the deadline. So you're not looking at adding a higher AAV on that front. But yeah, it all depends on what Toews is feeling. Huss, he has the trade protection, but this is a guy who, at the end of his run in Chicago, he went through a ton of losing. So, of course, I think he would be open to trying to go to a team that's a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, Tampa was another one of the teams that was interested in him, I believe, as well. But I think first and foremost, he wants to, he's talked about his level of investment for the market and the franchise he's playing in. I think that's his priority. But if the Jets fall out of the race fully, I could see him being open to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they pull the old Keith Tkachuk, trade him for a bunch of picks at the deadline and then sign him back for a year as a free agent in the offseason. I mean, I guess anything is possible. It is a really unique situation. Wild tomorrow, Leafs here on Saturday. Some more big games coming up. Wiebe, we'll look forward to reading all about it in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press and listening to you and Ren do your thing after the game. Glad to hear you're close to being fully off the IR. We'll look forward to seeing you at the rink on the weekend. Have a great one, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Huss. Who do you have this weekend? Who do you like on the gridiron? I'm just going to miss that Bears game, as it turns out. I'm going to fly in a little bit too late to go to Soldier Field, but based on the temperature, it might be better off watching indoors. Yeah,
I'm fascinated by that game. I mean, I know the Rams are the favorite, but I'm done counting out the Bears. I still cannot believe they won that game last week. What a choke job by the Packers. I had to do a wellness check on Mo and all the other Packer fans in my life on Sunday, make sure that, they were handling it well. And I said all year long, I can't wait to bet against the Broncos in the playoffs. So consider me Josh Allen's biggest fan on the weekend. I do like Seattle, and I'm impressed with the Texans. Listen, I thought C.J. Stroud looked terrible in that game on Monday night, but man, their defense is so good. I did do a future for a Texans-Seahawks Super Bowl, and I think that's still pretty live right now with where those teams sit. I do like Seattle in the NFC, and to me, the AFC is fascinating, really, really wide open. I think that Texans defense travels, though. I think they're going to be a really, really tough out. So we'll make the picks official on Friday, yes, but that's where I'm leaning right now.
Love it. I mean, a lot of Vikings fans see Danielle Hunter and think, man, where is this guy? That was a bit of a miscue letting him walk, I think.
Yeah, very expensive, but he
gets the job done.
He's part of the number one defense in football. Have a good one, dude. Thanks again.
Take care, my man. Cheers.
All right, we're going to chat some Jets and Bombers and the St. B. The lottery coming up with our pal Bob Irving in just a minute. You can check it out. St. B megamillionschoices.ca. But before we do that, I want to get to our Chuds Power Sports Power Poll for the week. In the National Hockey League, of course, our Power Polls on Winnipeg Sports Talk, brought to you by Manitoba's premier power sports superstore, Chuds Power Sports, corner of Highway 8 and 231 in Gimli, and online at chudspowersports.com. Not a lot of change at the top of the power poll this week. Listen, I know the Avalanche lost 2 in a row last week, and they lost an OT to the Leafs. They're still in a stratosphere beyond everyone else. It would take a couple of really, really tough weeks for them not to be the number one team on the board. So we start off with the Colorado Avalanche at 1. And I don't think there's any doubt that the Tampa Bay Lightning right now are number 2. They won their 11th straight game yesterday. They've got arguably the best coach in the game, a team that has won before, that is ready for another push. They are the class of the East right now, the hottest team in the NHL. Tampa Bay is number 2. And then it's sort of a pick'em between the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars. We'll go with Minnesota in that Dallas has had a bit of a rough run lately. Lost last night to the Ducks, only 2 wins in their last 10. But the record still speaks for itself. Minnesota going to be a tough one for the Jets. They'll be in an ornery mood after that loss to Jersey on home ice when the Jets are there tomorrow to take on the Wild. So Wild at 3, Dallas at 4. And then next up, it's the Carolina Hurricanes. You got the top 2 teams in the East at 2 and 5. And it is the 3 beasts of the Central Division, 1, 3, and 4. Colorado, Tampa, Minnesota, Dallas, Carolina. There is your weekly NHL Power Poll for our friends at Chud's Power Sports. Let me know where I'm wrong in the chat. All right, big thanks to our friends at Clean Line. Of course, Clean Line, family owned and operated, the leaders for 40 years in residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical. And of course, the sponsors of all of the Jets lines here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Your local leader for over 40 years in the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, captain approved. We'll have an update on the lines tomorrow for the game. I can tell you that Barron was not playing, but was in the contact jersey today, so could be good to go tomorrow. But no changes in the lines. Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Perfetti, Taves, Velarde, Niederreiter, Lowry, Nemetsnikov, and Koepke and Pearson with Danny Zhilkin. We'll be interested when we do the Clean Line lines tomorrow is where Elias Salomonsson fits in. Does he go and play with Dylan Sandberg and he keeps Stanley and Shen together? Does Shen move up? We'll have some details on that tomorrow. Again, don't forget Clean Line, 24-hour emergency service, 365 days a year. 204-500-2001 for Clean Line's 24/7 emergency services. We got a big one tomorrow night. No Thursday night football anymore, but a big slate of games on the weekend. No better place to get together with your gang for the Jets on the road or the NFL playoffs than your local Boston Pizza. Ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and don't forget to get in on your chance to win that flight menu giveaway for a trip for 2 at the end of February to see the Winnipeg Jets in Anaheim. It's all waiting for you at Boston Pizza. Staying at home, order online at bostonpizza.com. Now we're well into winter. We've got NFL playoffs going on. Of course, if you want to get gear for your favorite team, Royal Sports has it. Latest in the Winnipeg Jets merch, Royal has it. NHL, Major League Baseball, and Blue Jays. And of course, all the Olympic gear is ready for you in advance of the Olympics over at Royal Sports, not to mention the biggest and best hockey section in town and tons of snowboards right now as we get ready for snowboard season and many of you planning a trip away. You got to see it for yourself. The ultimate sports superstore in Winnipeg for over 50 years. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, Bob Irving just about to join us. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Had a great time last week out in Sage Creek at the launch of the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. A whole bunch of friends from the media were there to kick off the campaign. But one very special individual that is very much involved in the campaign. And, of course, he's a great guy to talk sports with, too. So we figured what better way to kick everything off than bring in one of the spokespeople for the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery and a Winnipeg broadcasting legend into the program. Bob Irving joined us now. Knuckles, what is going on? Great to see you last week, and it's great to have you on the program.
Well, there's not a lot going on. Huss, I'm retired, as you well know, and it gives me even more time than I had before to sit and watch sports all day, and that's what I do. I watch all the Jets games, all the hockey I can take in. The NFL playoffs, of course, are captivating this past weekend. I'm waiting for golf season to begin. As a matter of fact, it starts this week in Hawaii with Brooks Koepka coming back to the PGA Tour. There's so much going on that as a sports nut, and I know you're exactly the same as I am, there's always something to pay attention to. So that's kind of cool.
You know, just listening to you say that, it makes me just thankful to be doing what we're doing. And it kind of speaks to the fact that you're able to have such a great career that probably not a lot of days really felt like work.
No, that's so true. I've said many times I felt blessed to have the career that I had and do it for almost 50 years. And it was a passion. You know, it's just a love of sport. And when you retire, the only thing that changes is you don't have to do the work like you're doing, Hustler. You know, I can just sit back and every now and then people will call and ask me to come on the air, or I can just watch and I don't have to do any preparation or cut up interviews or anything else. And so I guess I've become a little bit lazy. But no, once you're a sports nut, you're a sports nut. And to be able to make your living as you are doing right now, following sports and talking about sports, man, that's the ultimate.
No, definitely never a bad day. Although I will say, the local hockey team has been giving many of us, been testing our patience. Although, you know, they've turned it around with 3 wins in a row after that miserable 11-game losing streak. But what's your take on just where we're at right now with this Jets season that went so horribly wrong in the first half?
Well, none of us saw this coming. You know, they were 9-3, and I know the underlying analytics at that point weren't good, and some people were saying there could be trouble on the horizon. But none of us saw this coming, the total collapse of the way they play the game. I know they had some injuries, but it was just befuddling, really, to watch. And then they lost all those close games, the 11-game losing streak. And I've said 2 or 3 times that one of the major problems was a lack of secondary scoring. And now that's coming to the fore when we see Taves and Perfetti and Pearson and Lowry. Adam Lowry's chipping in some points, and they're starting to win some games. So I think the secondary scoring was a big deal. They have 9 forwards and 7 defensemen on this team who were here last year when they won the President's Trophy. So, you know, the lineup didn't undergo a major change, but the way they performed underwent a major change. So I don't know, lots of people had thoughts and different ideas on it. To me, it was inexplicable that they could get that bad. But now we see the turn in the other direction. You know, one of the things they fought through, I think, was a crisis of confidence. When you're losing, it just it builds, right? And now that they've started winning, and I know it's only 3, but I saw a good sign in the game against New Jersey. They blew the 3-0 lead, right? Now it's 3-3, but they came back and took the lead again. And I think that was a great sign that the confidence is returning. And I referenced Perfetti. I think he's so important to their, and Jonathan Taves has come around offensively. I see good signs. The problem they have is there's little room for error. They've got to win, I think, 3 out of every 4 games they play if they hope to make the playoffs. So the challenge is there for them, but certainly some good signs now.
The hill is steep. I will say this just from, you know, as someone that goes to all the games, I mean, they just needed to end that streak. I mean, regardless of how things go through the rest of the month, I mean, it was just like a black cloud that was over the team. The fan base felt like the city. And I mean, that game last Friday, I mean, we had a great group from Winnipeg Sports Talk out up in the 300s, and it speaks to Winnipeg fans. And Eric Comrie talked about it afterwards, just how supportive they were of a team that was so obviously going through it. And, you know, it's been a real fun week in the building. Of course, we get the Maple Leafs and all that comes with the Toronto visit on Saturday night. And big one tomorrow against Minnesota, because as you mentioned, there is no room for error. And if they want to have any chance of playing meaningful games in April, it's going to take a big winning streak to sort of offset the damage that was done in the past week. Bob, while we've got you here, I want to ask you about what do you make of the Bombers offseason and looking back at last year after the incredibly high bar that this team set going to 5 straight Grey Cups. How do we look at last year's relative underachievement? It was just a matter of time before they were going to have a season like that, or do you see this as a real kind of pivotal time for the organization as they sort of move from one era into another?
Well, the words you use, relative underachievement, I think are very accurate because the bar is so high. They go 10-8, make the playoffs, and people are asking what's wrong. But certainly it was a slide, and I think this is a critical off season for them, Hustler. They've got to pivot a little bit in some directions. They're an older team, and this is a challenging time for clubs that have older players. I don't want to reference the Bud Grant era, but Bud Grant's team, they all got old at once. And after a phenomenal run in the 50s and 60s, they were awful for a number of years. I don't see that happening here, but they've got to make some tough calls here. They've re-signed some key guys, Oliveira, Dembski, Cranby, Evan Holm, and some others. What of Stanley Bryant? Do you stick with a guy who's going to be 40? Pat Neufeld is going to be 37. What about Willie? What's going to happen with Willie Jefferson? These are older players. Kolinkowski, their center, they let go because they feel they need to be better there. You give Dalton Schoen another run. I would, but he's had 2 ACLs. And so is there some risk there? So I think in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and once they get into free agency, we'll have a better read on how 2026 is going to look. But I think 2025 exposed some flaws, and they're going to have to make some very difficult decisions. The good news is I think they still have a quarterback who can be a champion, and that's Zach Collaros. People have wondered about his age and whatnot at 37, but I think he's still got it as long as they can protect him better than they did last year. That is absolutely critical. They have a new offensive coordinator. I think that's a good move. So I think there's still a core of players there who can bring this team back to the level it was at. But it's going to take some tinkering, and they're going to have to land, I think, a handful of free agents that'll plug some holes.
You mentioned the new coordinator. I'm really intrigued to see what this offense looks like with somebody from outside of the building coming in, and Tommy Condell, and he'll be coaching the quarterbacks as well. And this speaks to, I think Zach Collaros probably was a big asset in Tommy getting the job because of their relationship earlier when Zach was starting out his career. I mean, the quarterback position, Bob, is so important in the Canadian Football League. And, I think Zach's contract went to the end of last year. Like many of us thought that might be it. It was great to have the 1-year extension and keep this thing moving on. But to me, maybe one of the most important parts of this season will be to, refill the talent in that quarterback room, which we've done, and see who maybe establishes themselves as a backup, how much playing time they can get, because it is time definitely to have a succession plan at whatever point Zach hangs it up with what will surely be a Hall of Fame career.
Well, Elgersma, the player they drafted, Hustler, is the guy they want to bring in here and start grooming to be the successor. Up to now, as you and I speak, he's still sniffing around the National Football League. He had a preseason game with Green Bay last year and looked pretty good. And I think he's convinced, and obviously his agent is pushing this, he's convinced that he'll get another shot and maybe we'll get a chance to play down there. But he is the heir apparent. They've signed 2 guys. One, the guy who was the outstanding player in the United Football League, who's 29 years old, and then a young guy. I can't imagine the Bombers going into the season, maybe they will, I don't know, without a backup who has some CFL experience. Because, you're asking for it then, I think, given Zach's age and the fact that he's had some injury issues. So they've really got to shore up that backup quarterback situation. And I don't think Chris Streveler fits into the plan anymore, although who knows, as we sit here and speak, he'll make some miraculous recovery from his latest injury and maybe becomes part of the plan again. But Elgersman's the long-term answer, I think, if they can get him here. Otherwise, maybe they sign a free agent, who's got some experience in the CFL as the guy who's going to back up Zach. So we'll see how it plays out, but certainly they've got to have strength and depth at the quarterback position.
It's certainly a situation that the team hasn't been in for a long time. I mean, I still remember being on the air at the old place and right at the end of the show getting the press release about an hour after the trade deadline that the Bombers had acquired Zach Collaros for a conditional pick. And who could have ever imagined what his run in Winnipeg would would turn into. One other thing about the Bombers, I just wanted your perspective on, considering how long you called the games for the team. You mentioned Nick Dembski and Brady Oliveira. To me, this really dates back to Andrew Harris coming over as one of the most impactful, I think, free agent signings we've ever seen in the CFL. This era, and I think a lot of it starts actually at the top with Wade Miller, prioritizing local players. But who could have imagined that, young men from Winnipeg would have such massive impacts on the team, but also like true CFL stars, with a kid like Oliveira winning an MOP?
Yeah, you talked about Andrew Harris, Hustler. I remember when they signed him as a free agent, and we knew it was coming because Wally Buono, the coach in BC at the time, had kind of had enough of Andrew for whatever reason. He felt it was time to move on from Andrew, and he landed in the lap of the Bombers. There was a training camp I'll never forget, just to sort of move to a different direction, where just before camp began, Adam Bighill landed in their laps. They signed Willie Jefferson as a free agent. So they've really had some good luck and made some great moves in free agency. But the local kids, it's a great story. Brady Oliveira, Nick Dembski, local kids. Oak Park High. I have a grandson playing at Oak Park High, by the way. So it's just really cool to see those guys staying here. And I knew they weren't going to leave. I mean, there's no way those guys want to go play anywhere else. And the Bombers, to their credit, stepped up to the table. You want to have the best football players you can have, but if you can have some local kids like that who make the impact that they make, it's icing on the cake. And you mentioned Wade Miller. I'll just throw it in. The job he's done here, Hustler. Imagine, going to 5 straight Grey Cups and selling out the stadium all the time and having a profit of $6 or $7 million every year. That all rests at the feet of Mr. Miller, who's done a phenomenal job since he took over.
Well, I just think, 10 years ago, where this franchise was, and to be honest, everything that you just mentioned would have been legitimately inconceivable at the time. And now business-wise, they've never been in a better situation, and really the standard for the Canadian Football League as we go into the next season. Will be interesting to see how free agency goes and just what the roster's like. You mentioned some of the big names, Willie, Stanley Bryant, Pat Neufeld, what gets done before free agency. But I got to tell you, I love the guys that they prioritized in re-signing. We mentioned Dembski and Oliveira, and I got to tell you, Evan Holm quietly has become, a real fixture in that secondary. And I know he was paid well, but to me, that was money well spent. He would have been a really tough guy to replace back there.
Well, you got to have good defensive backs if you're going to have success in the CFL for sure. And he was a key re-signing. I think they've got to find at least one cornerback and maybe one other defensive back in the offseason, either via free agency or recruiting from the U.S. But, Evan Holm was a key. And so was Retta Cramdy. He's a Canadian, right? And I don't think he gets enough credit. He's a little guy, but he plays that dime position or whatever you want to call it so well. He's such a smart guy. He sets up the rest of the players on defense. For all the troubles they had last year, they still gave up the fewest points of any team in the league, which I think people tend to forget and overlook. So defensively, they're coming off a pretty good year, and they've re-added some of the guys who are important in that.
Well, I'm especially with the way the hockey season's gone, already looking forward to getting back out to Princess Auto Stadium and seeing what the team can do as they look to start another streak of getting to the Grey Cup. Bob, so great to have you on the program. And part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because, of course, our friends at the St. Boniface Hospital have just launched the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. And you are a spokesperson for the event, but I know it's something that's important to you, hearing you speak at the event, just how, obviously this lottery you can win, $1.25 million, and we'll go through some of the amazing other prizes available, but it does support an incredibly important hospital that does work that frankly saves lives. And I know you have been very thankful for what the folks at the St. B have done for you over the years.
Well, it was about 27 years ago, I guess, Hustler, that I started having some arrhythmia issues, irregular heartbeat and whatnot. It led to a open heart surgery where they repaired a tricuspid valve, but that didn't clear up the arrhythmia. I could go through a litany of tests and procedures that I've had at St. Boniface, and I can tell you, how warm my heart is when I think about the treatment I've had at St. Boniface. Not just me, but everybody who has cardiac issues has access to St. Boniface Hospital. Tremendous doctors. There's groundbreaking research that goes on there, world-class research that they're renowned for. And for anybody who's had to deal with cardiac issues, heart issues, there's a feeling of comfort in knowing that we have a hospital here in Winnipeg that specializes in that care and gives it willingly to everybody. I talked the other day that you're talking about the press conference at Sage Creek. I talked about the compassion that is shown to cardiac patients by the nurses, and not just to cardiac patients, but I'm speaking in that area because that's where I've been. It's been kind of a second home for me. I can't even count on two hands how many times I've been there to be treated or to be dealt with because I had some sort of a mini crisis. But you just come away from there feeling so good about the treatment you've had. So I would just remind everybody that when you buy a lottery ticket, you obviously have a chance to win some great prizes, but you also support. And without money, none of this happens. You support the great work and the great programs at St. Boniface. So I would say get out there and get yourself a St. Boniface Mega Million Choices lottery ticket. You might win a wonderful, unbelievable prize, something you never dreamt in your wildest dreams you would win. But you will know this, that you're supporting a phenomenal hospital that provides cardiac care, which is world class.
100%. You saw one of the homes that's up for one of the grand prizes. Of course, there's also that $1.25 million cash, tax-free, which will go well. Remis has got the site up there right now, folks. I mean, if you're listening on the podcast, just head over to stbmegamillionchoices.ca, and you'll be able to see everything that is available. And now's the time to get in, because not only will you be eligible for the incredible grand prizes, I mean, the team behind this has put together just some absolutely phenomenal, the winter bonus that's coming up, the ultimate bonus. And if you get in before the 29th of January, you'll be eligible for literally everything. I know with the Winnipeg winter, travel's always quite something that people would love to have right now. There's a $40,000 travel voucher plus $10,000 cash. There's some incredible vehicles. But considering we are a sports show, Bob, I got to tell you, my jaw dropped when I heard that there is a World Cup package. One of the ultimate bonuses, which I believe is the second sort of deadline, tickets, hotel, airfare for two to a World Cup soccer game in Vancouver. This is going to be an event that takes over the entire world, but with the Canada games being in Toronto and Vancouver, I know a lot of times people will go, I'm going to take the cash. I don't think someone that wins this is going to take the cash. This is literally a dream trip for an event that is going to be literally impossible or incredibly expensive to get to. I think we can count on that.
Well, I know you're a guy, Huss, that likes to go to special sporting events. You've been to Super Bowls and you travel the U.S. periodically and go to different games. Imagine the World Cup. That's a cut above everything. Maybe we're not a soccer country per se. We're a hockey country. But the World Cup is different, right? It's just one of those things that worldwide is watched by millions and millions, even billions of people. And we're going to have games here in Canada. And somebody who buys a lottery ticket is going to go to Vancouver to take in a World Cup game, and that will be an event of a lifetime that they will not forget. So there's, another reason to roll out $100 to buy a ticket, or even more than that, because you might win that trip. But again, if you don't, you'll know that you supported the St. Boniface Hospital, and that's critically important for everybody in our province who needs cardiac care.
Yeah, the new World Cup experience is just one of the early prizes available. And again, if you get in and get your tickets by the 29th of January, you'll be in for literally everything. And of course, there's more early winners, the biggest ever bonus, that new World Cup experience. And make sure to check out the unlimited 50-50 jackpot. And then when it's all said and done, Bob, someone's going to be Manitoba's newest millionaire. And that's no small change.
No, it isn't. It's no small change. It would be a nice gift as we head for the springtime, wouldn't it? And again, I would just say to people, even if you haven't had cardiac issues, I'm sure somebody in your family has, because we all know that it's one of the leading killers of all the health problems we can have. So I would just, again, encourage people to consider. I know it's, it's easy to say, oh, go buy some tickets. It's easy for us to say that, but just consider it. And always in the back of your mind, remember that you're supporting the work that goes on, the life-saving work that goes on at St. Boniface Hospital.
Well, I mean, listen, it's thanks to the people that support this. The capital expansions, are possible. Manitobans having access to the latest technology and high-quality medical equipment, increasing patient comfort. And at the end of the day, every cent from this goes to supporting our courageous medical researchers whose discoveries will become tomorrow's cures. But it's a great cause to support. Some incredibly exciting prizes that'll be given up before the grand prize. And then if you're the lucky Manitoban that has their name called, one of 5 dream home packages or $1.25 million cash. It is all up right now, gang. Get on over to St. B megamillionchoices.ca. You could also pick up tickets in person at London Drugs in town. And we do have a phone number as well if people want to call in. Toll free, 1-855-256-7203. Or locally, 204-256-7203. Red River Co-op food stores also have them in. And, of course, at the St. Boniface Foundation and the St. B Hospital Everett Atrium. Bob, it was so great to see you last week, and awesome to be teaming up with you guys to help the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. Wish you well. Get through these next couple months, and let's catch up again right before the end for a final push and do what we can to help what is the incredible work that you've experienced in so many Manitobans over at the St. Boniface Hospital.
Well, thanks for having me on, Hustler. Let's do that. And I would like to say to you, congratulations on the success of your show. It's phenomenal what you've done, and you deserve, I think, a round of applause. I know you've got some people working with you who are very helpful, but your show has been a tremendous success, and that's a great credit to you. Well done, my friend.
Really appreciate it. Myself, Michael, and, Connor on board. Like we were talking over earlier, it is a labor of love, but we've had incredible support from both our sponsors and people around here, and it's a privilege to be able to do it every day. And it's a privilege to have people like you on the program. Bob, have a great one. Stay warm. And again, folks, St. B megamillionchoices.ca is where you can find all the information and get your tickets for the St. B Mega Millions Lottery. Bob, have a great one. Thanks again for doing this.
Thank you, Andrew.
Oh, what a great chance to chat with Knuckles. It's great to see him last week, and everyone else that was out at the kickoff of the St. B Mega Million Choices Lottery. Seeing some love for the prizes, everyone getting in. Sport's a great cause. And man, obviously 1.25 mil, life-changing. That World Cup package is an unbelievable one of their early bird prizes. But I'd suggest get the tickets now. They'll be in for everything. And as I say, it's all for a great, great cause. St. B megamillionchoices.ca. Red River Co-op, London Drugs as well if you want to buy them in person. All right, we got to get to the Cool Bet line. It's not a busy night tonight in the National Hockey League, only 4 games. But before we do that, Remo, pop back in here. The commish, Stuart Johnson, spoke today at the CFL meetings, and a couple of interesting little tidbits. First off, we were all worried as to, wait a second, with this new clock, this isn't going to screw up the last 3 minutes of the game, which are as exciting as in any sort of professional football. The answer to that is no. They're going to use the 35-second clock until the 3-minute warning, and then the 20-second clock that we're used to right now. So we'll see how that. But how about this change to overtime to prevent ties? I think we've only had a couple in the last 8 years or so. That being said, this is a pretty neat way to finish a game if, in fact, it is tied after a couple rounds of OT.
Yeah, so they're going to be getting rid of ties in the CFL. Derek Taylor notes there have only been 4 ties since 2010, but they do leave you feeling unfulfilled, as we've seen in the NFL. And CFL going with alternating basically 2-point convert attempts until there's a winner. So you line up for one play and you switch, take turns until, I guess someone stops someone.
Football's version of a shootout, I guess.
That would be exciting. So the odd time it would happen, sure, I'm here for that. Something different. Stuart Johnson mentioning expansion. The Red Blacks came into the league in 2014, and he says he wants to see a 10th team by 2030. It's amazing to me that, for so long we've been talking about 10th team, and no one has been able to get it done. It seems like the biggest hurdle is there's no stadiums in Canada that can have a CFL team have, the amenities and facilities for fans, for players. So I don't know if they're just going to build one, or people don't want to pay for them. They want the government to pay, whatever. We'll see what happens there. I don't want to get into there's all politics involved of building a stadium. They don't just pop up on their own. Someone's got to pay for it.
Yeah, well, it's not happening in the Maritimes, and I think they've realized the challenge of that is just going to be too great. I keep on pounding the table for Quebec City. They're not getting an NHL team. So, they've got a great football culture there. Laval's been incredibly successful. Mm-hmm. I think that stadium already can hold in and around 11 or 12. So maybe you can expand that, or, build a football specific building there and get a team in, be a great rival with the Alouettes. And again, at that point, then we get to the perfect scenario. 10 teams, an 18-game schedule, a perfectly even sked, which is fair for everyone, where you play every team at home once and you travel to every team once as well on the road. And it is easier said than done. They wanted to get to 10 teams for a long time, and we are still a 9-team league heading into 2026.
Yeah, flag football in 2028 Olympics. They say CFL players will play flag football, but they're not going to stop, playing the season. So if you're a team and you have
if those guys make
going
the
to
team,
Olympics, sorry, what was that?
If CFLers can flag football is different. And I'm sure there are some guys that are certainly capable of it, but you have teams that are having, guys focusing in on the flag game, which is very different than professional football. And, while it might be open and available to some guys, it's so different. I wouldn't be surprised if Lapo's team is almost exclusively flag specialist in Michael O'Connor, who's the quarterback for the team, is a former pro. Certainly the throwing part, but everything else, there's no hitting, there's no all that. I think it's a different kind of athlete that really will excel in flag. And I'm telling you right now, in the States, I think you could put together an NFL All-Star team against the U.S. team, and I bet the U.S. team would win. And, of course, Lapo's team beat the U.S. It's just very different. Don't just assume it's going to be, Mahomes and Justin Jefferson rolling out there for Team USA in the Olympics in 2028.
Yeah, isn't it going to be Mahomes? Isn't Tyreek Hill, if his leg gets put back together, isn't he be the fastest player at the Olympics?
Well, Jefferson is like an ambassador or whatever for the team, and has said that he'd like to do it. And that's okay. That's probably a guy that I can see, the top elite receivers. But anyways, I'm here for. We should talk to Lapo. It's been a little minute. We should find out what the heck's going on with this club as they count down to the Olympics in 2 years.
Yeah, one thing that's been discussed about CFL is American draft. They have this neg list. There's a lot of secrecy about who. Now they have to disclose a couple names. You didn't know who was on whose neg list or how they got on there. There was some discussion about American draft. Not going to happen, although they've talked about it. They're not going to do it right now. And they are considering playoff format tweaks. And I didn't hear any of the quotes because it was during the show. I did see Jamie Nye use the I. Jamie Nye of what? CJME in is that what he's on, or is he on Green Zone? No, he's on CJME. Yeah, Green Zone and CJME and CFL.ca. He was saying about the commissioner was wondering about a team only having to win one game to get to the Grey Cup, the division winner, and if that's right or not. Well, it's a 9-team league, so
8 teams make the playoffs?
Yeah, you're not going to have 8 teams in the playoffs. That's dumb. So
that
I
has
think
to be that quote has to be pulled from
yeah.
some different context or something like that. Maybe a team that wins a division that finishes 10-8, only having to win one game as opposed to a 12-6 second place team. And I think this goes back to, do we need the divisions? Should we have? We talked about it with John yesterday on the program. Should you just have the top 6 teams make it and the top 2 get buys, and you seed it from there and move forward and give yourself the best chance of having the best 2 teams in the league play in the Grey Cup, albeit not East versus West.
I liked John's takes yesterday on that as well. And yeah, I mean, do we need divisions? Like, what are they really doing? So, and that they didn't mention anything about the awards, and John talked about that yesterday, the awards voting, how you have to separate East and West and 1 player per team and only, 2 finalists, 1 from each thing. It's unnecessary. So we'll see if if anything happens there. But CFL winter meetings are going on with the GMs doing availabilities, the commissioner. We'll see if there's any other changes, but we're all looking forward to the new rules, right, Huss, in the CFL?
I mean, I'm not freaking out about them like a lot of other people are. I'm sort of always been somewhat open to change. Like the moving the goalpost back, I can live with. I know people are really choked about the field size. To me, is 3 downs, the wide field. I think there's a possibility it does make it better. I'm not saying it will, though. And as I say, I will judge it when it happens. But I'll still be a Bomber and a CFL fan, and I'll still be going to games. I'm certainly not going to lose out on something I love more than anything in the summer because the 55-yard line is gone. That's just where I'm at. But I know some other people feel the same way. It'll be interesting to see whether they can really hold out when we're back to playing football in a full Princess Auto Stadium and the Bombers are looking ahead to the season. CFL free agency going to be coming up in early February as well. So there will be lots coming out of these meetings as we get into the free agency period and more of the CFL off season. Now, before we go, let's rip over to Coolbet. What do we got cooking for tonight? We got 4 games in the NHL. Seattle Kraken at the Devils. Seattle plus 125. Devils a minus 147 favorite. Buffalo Sabres at home to Philadelphia. Buffalo minus 135. Philly plus 115 road dog. 2 teams that are in dark places right now. Ottawa and the Rangers. Rangers, 4 losses in a row. Last place in the East. Only 5 wins at home on the season. Ottawa, despite playing last night, still a slight favorite, minus 112 over the Rangers. Rangers minus 104. And then the nightcap in LA, the Kings, even money, home dog. Vegas a slight favorite at minus 118. Remember last week, Reem, when the Jets were in dead last in the league, and we looked at the Stanley Cup odds, and they were 65-1, like ahead of a whole bunch of teams, including teams like Detroit that were first in the East.
Yeah.
It's changed a little bit. Just in time for the Jets to win 3 in a row, they're now 100-1. But the Islanders are 100-1. I mean, everything's so much jacked up because of how short the number on Colorado is. But it is interesting right now. After Colorado, Vegas and Tampa are 7-1. The Canes plus 750. Panthers 9-1. Edmonton 10-1. Dallas 18 and Minnesota 22, which is a crime. I mean, those 2 teams, but again, it's all about the Central and the path that they have to go through. So if any of you want to throw a Hail Mary on the Jets, they've gone from 65 to 100-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Don't think that'll be an investment that I'm going to be doing just yet, but hey, you never know. Win a few more games, get people more fired up, and the dream will remain alive. NFL playoffs, a little update on these lines. The Broncos have now moved to a 1-point favorite. Buffalo opened as a 1-point favorite. Denver is now favored. The money line for this game, it's basically a pick 'em. Denver minus 115, Buffalo minus 102. Wow, this is interesting. The Seahawks were 7.5-point favorites. And that's moved to 7. I thought it actually might go the other way, especially with the Kittle injury. So Seattle laying 7. They're minus 345 favorites. Niners to win plus 280. The Patriots, 3-point favorites over the Texans in the afternoon game on Sunday. New England minus 175. Texans plus 148. And then the late game on Sunday, it's the LA Rams at the Chicago Bears. Rams minus 200 favorites and laying 3.5 points. The Bears at plus 170. I don't mind getting the Bears to 4.5 at plus 125. I'm actually looking right now at that 3.5 number on the Texans at minus 125. Might be able to put something like that together for the game. We'll have WST winners Friday at 10 a.m. And we'll make our picks. We'll try and make it 3 straight partner parlays and get some winners for the weekend. And, of course, we'll have to have some sort of head-to-head bet for the Jets-Leafs game with Pat and Jake. Jake will jump on the show tomorrow. But lots going on at Cool Bet. Check it out right now. We got the college football championship next week. Indiana just been steamrolling everybody. 8.5-point favorites in the college football championship game. And don't forget, PGA Tour is back tomorrow. Sony Open in Hawaii. Russell Henley's the favorite at 11-1. We got Corey Connors, the Canadian, 28-1. And defending champ Nick Taylor, 40-1. Pat and I did put together a little exclusive if you want to ride with us. Corey Connors, top 10. Billy Ho, top 20. And Tony Finau to make the cut. Boosted up to just over 22-1. And Patty's got a cut parlay as well. Henley, Morikawa, and Connors. That's boosted to even money. Lots going on. If you haven't played a Cool Bet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus, up to $200 on your first deposit. What's up tonight, Reem?
My son's got outdoor hockey practice, so I'm waiting to see if we're going to be hitting that this evening.
What do you mean you're waiting? Why would you
I don't know,
not?
folding my laundry, maybe edit. The video I posted of you and Mike talking about Logan Stanley and Luke Shen being on some recent trade boards got a lot of views, so I may post your conversation with Dave Pagnotta yesterday separately and do some clickbait. Really lean into the clickbait. I'm not doing it enough, Huss. I'm too modest. I want to get my clicks the right way and not use leading clickbait titles like
we're
is this
earning
it?
them with the great content that we're putting together on the program. And if you need to go, is this it?
The Winnipeg
trade bait board? Does this trade make sense?
Yeah. This is the moment for the Winnipeg Jets. ... And some big lame thumbnail. So, I mean, that's what you got to do these days if you want to make it on YouTube. And this was Jets trade rumors heat up. Luke Shen and Logan Stanley in play got almost 7,000 views in a little over 24 hours. So, I guess
lots of comments too. I mean, that just shows how invested everyone is.
Man, I posted it on our Facebook. Got 100 comments on Facebook. Got 84 comments on YouTube. People have opinions about Logan Stanley. People think it would be crazy for the Jets to have this guy for 10 years and then just trade him away like nothing. So I'm very interested in where the Jets are going. And even though the Jets may not be in a playoff spot right now, we can still have fun conversations. And I mean, if the Logan Stanley does move on from the Jets, I would put him up there with PLD in terms of content Hall of Fame. I think he might be number 1. Just what he's given us since he was drafted. This conversation has been happening, and that was almost going 10 years. What an era!
You know what? You're right. WST Content Hall of Fame, Big Stan,
Yes.
number 64. Four Nations against Shut. If anyone knows that guy, by the way, give him some love from me. I had to snap that picture, and that tweet just keeps on going and going and going.
The Stan, Four Nations, and it's really too bad that the Olympic jerseys are so terrible that people love the Four Nations. jerseys. Those are amazing. And these
they kept the team the same. Why didn't they keep the jerseys very similar?
Well, I think it was different jersey designer had to play in that saying that. But the Canada jerseys they're garbage. So
the white ones are nice. I saw a guy wearing a white one at the game last night.
The white ones are okay.
Black maple leaf on the red jersey, nah.
Why?
And then the black jersey.
Yeah, why wouldn't it have a red maple leaf? Why is it a black maple leaf on a black? Is that what it is, or is it a red maple leaf? Hold on.
No, I think it's black on black.
Red. That's so bad. Who designs these? And we never even. Oh yeah, it is black on black. Yeah, really dumb. And we never even talked about this. There's some reports coming out about remix jerseys for next year. The Jets are going to have one, a new one. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure they'll have a heritage jersey. Two for that. So
yeah, I'm not sure they're going to come out with 2 different jerseys in the same year.
It's true.
So I would assume that the jersey, whatever the new jersey they'll do, is going to be specifically for the Heritage game. All right, we got to get this pod up so our podcast listeners can listen. Fun show today. Shout out to everybody in chat. Thanks to John Shannon, Ken Wiebe, and Bob Knuckles Irving for jumping on the program. Game day tomorrow. Jets and the Minnesota Wild. Well, the latest from the morning skate. We'll update the clean lines for you. Jesse Pierce is going to jump on. So lots on the Jets and Wild. A little more coming out of the CFL meetings and maybe even a little of the NFL playoffs as well. All coming up tomorrow. Huge thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. And all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.